Welcome everybody to painting. My name is Dreier. I'm going to be your instructor. And painting is a great time, but it's going to be a little more challenging as we do it remotely. So you're going to need to be watching some of the videos because that's the information I'm going to be giving the face-to-face students. And so it's going to be a little bit tougher because it's going to be a little harder to see some of those nuances that I might be doing when I'm demonstrating painting. But we'll get back. We'll get by as best we can. So first of all, this semester I want to teach you about some of the materials, and we're going to start off with just paint brushes. And so I know it may be a little bit lengthy, but I'm going to have a little quiz after this as well. So kind of stay with me here. So a lot of times when we start going with our brushes, let me switch it over here so we can see it. Some of the cheapest brushes are nylon, and I don't have a nylon brush. It almost looks like you pushed nylon through a Play-Doh fun factory, and they're like little tubes of spaghetti, and they're chopped off really abruptly. And those are, you can almost count the number of hairs, and those are really the worst kind of brushes. So a lot of times that'll come in rose art, watercolor paints, and a lot of times we ask elementary students to paint something nice, but we give them crappy material. So I'm going to talk to you about some better brushes. Now, this is an old set, but this is more kind of what you might see. This is a prying set, and got different watercolor little tubs there. I'm not going to talk about paint at the moment, but this is the kind of brush that we get in some of those sometimes. And it's a natural hair brush. And the difference between natural hair and nylon brushes is a nylon brush, you can see, if we look at the hair, it looks like this. It's really smooth. Let me zoom in a little bit. It's really smooth, and it's chopped off here pretty abruptly at the top. Natural hairbrush, like your hair, kind of looks like this underneath the microscope. And what that does for us is it collects water here. It holds a lot more water. And sometimes it comes to a point. This is individual hairs, but it'll hold a lot more water. And a lot of times, if you're using those nylon brushes, you're constantly dipping, and it takes an inordinate amount of time. So this one is a natural hair brush. It's still not a very good brush. You can see that it is kind of irregular at the top here. If I wet it, I've got a little bit of water here. I'm going to push it down. Let's dry it off. Push it down. You can see that there's some stray hairs. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. There's some stray hairs. It doesn't come to a point. Way better than a nylon brush, but still, this is not a very good brush. A lot of times I push it down and it doesn't bounce back up. You can kind of see how it stays that way. That's kind of the properties of a natural hair brush anyway. And sometimes that's not a bad thing. In this case, it is a bad thing, and it makes it really difficult for a young painter to do anything with this. So that is kind of a cheap end. Then a lot of times we get some better brushes, and what they're called sable. And sable is natural hair brushes as well, but it's usually squirrel hair, and they make it all out of all different kinds of things. They make it out of mongoose, a variety of any small hair like mink that are nice straight hairs. But this one is a much more expensive brush. The prying brush is probably worth about 10 cents, literally 15 cents. This brush is probably about $10. And so, but you notice when I get this wet, look at how nice a point that is. And then I push it, and it snaps back. So it's got a little bit of spring to it, more handmade, so it comes to a nice point. And then this part of the hairs holds a lot of paint, so I don't have to do a lot of re-dipping. It holds a lot of paint, but I can get a really fine line using this. This is the number 12, and it's called a round. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and we'll have the little quiz on that. So it's basically the ferrule, and that's what this metal part is. It holds the hairs in, so the individual hairs are in there. They're glued, and they're kind of compressed here to hold them all in. So that's the ferrule, but the ferrule is round. Okay, so that's why it's called a round. This is number 12 round. This is the size that we're going to be getting, but ours is not going to be natural hair. So this can be kind of expensive, but our kind of more academic version that's going to be a little bit cheaper but still really adequate is a synthetic round. Synthetic means it's man-made, it's not natural, and it does the same thing. A lot of times these are white, sometimes they're golden color, but this does the same thing. You can see that it comes with a nice sharp point. It's nice and thick here. It's still round, and this is a number 12, I believe. Yeah, number 12. So this is one of the things that kind of is a kind of go-to paintbrush. You're going to be able to do large areas, but also you're going to be able to get some nice thin lines with this this brush. So that's synthetic. This is about a $6 brush, so you need to take care of it. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to take care of it, but we always want to just swish it around with water, especially with watercolor. And then we're going to dry it like this. We're going to pull it, and we're going to just kind of re-tip that brush. Brush hairs are kind of like your hair. If you go to bed with wet hair and then you roll around on the pillow, and the next morning your hair is stuck up all over the place, and you push it down and it pops back up. So that's the whole idea of sometimes maybe your mom or grandmother uses curlers. You dry it in a certain position, and then it stays that way. So if this brush dries with a point, it's going to want to naturally kind of go back to that point. If it dries all frizzled and stuff, then it's going to want to act that way when you go back and start painting again. So we have natural hair, we have a good natural hair, we have not so good natural hair, and then we have a synthetic, and it's called synthetic sable, and that's just another name for natural hair brush. Okay, this is what you're going to be getting. You're also going to be getting something a little bit bigger, and that's called a mop. And a mop is for big washes. It actually has kind of the shape of a filbert, and we're going to talk about that. But sometimes, you see kind of rounded here. Sometimes mops are a little more square. This is actually a kind of a bright, and bright is kind of a short and straight hair brush. And then we have some other ones here. Like this one, you can see that the hair is a little bit longer. That's called a flat, but it's not really a mop because it's not very big. So mops come in generally pretty wide brushes and pretty thick. You can see that doesn't come to, this is not very compressed. Sometimes you use a bigger one like this. This is really called a hake, H-A-K-E. But it does the same thing. If you're doing large skies, you don't want very many brush strokes. So this is kind of a type of mop, but really the mop is more like this or like this. And this is a monster. This is number 12. This one is Siberian blue squirrel. And it is a blue squirrel from Siberia. Holds a huge amount of paint. Looks big and kind of chunky, and if you look how it's been hand tied, this brush is, if you buy it retail, is about $130. It's massive, but it's kind of well worth it. I'm going to get a little bit of water and kind of show you here and dry it off just a hair. So this big monster comes down to pencil marks. You can do super fine stuff, or you can do super thick stuff. You are not going to get one of these, but again, what you're going to be getting is this. It's a number 12 round synthetic, and you're going to be getting a mop. This is a 3/4 inch mop, and then both of these are synthetic. This is a synthetic one, but it's kind of a golden color. This one's a white, and they're going to get stained a little bit. As long as they come to a point, they're doing well, but they may end up kind of turning a little off gray after you start using them, so that's okay. And then at different parts of this class, we're going to be using a rigger. And a rigger is still round if you see the ferrule. Get it in the camera. But it's really, really long. We can get some really fine lines, and we can get really long straight lines. So let's say that we wanted to do telephone lines. We did a telephone pole. This makes nice fine lines that way. So a lot of times they'll have these little plastic covers. Usually, unless you're really super careful, I kind of throw them away a lot of times. If you're not really careful and you put this on and you don't have all the hairs in, and you start bending the hairs all over the place. So there is another thing that I want to talk to you, especially because I'm going to give you new ones. Sometimes they're really super stiff, and you can kind of see how that kind of breaks apart because this feels like it's got some sticky stuff in it, and it does. It has some sizing. It's basically just really thin, watered-down glue that they dip it in. And so then during shipping, it's like razor sharp. It makes it look better on the shelf. So you're going to want to buy it. It's not all flaked out. Kind of like something like this. Let's see, get that. But it's got that little bit of sizing. All you do is take a little bit of water, swish it around, and clean it, and then it'll get softened. It should still stay with a nice sharp point, though. So we have a rigger. We have a mop, and let me zoom back out, and a round. And you can do basically all of our watercolor projects with that. I want to show you a couple other ones, though. So that's what your kit's going to be. You're responsible for it. If you destroy it, then you're just going to be working with bad brushes the rest of the whole semester. They do come with all different other sizes. I have sometimes this is a nice one. It's water. This is called a dagger. You see it's kind of thicker, but it has a little different kind of cut where it's kind of angled. Make different size mops. These are all again Siberian blue squirrel hair, but they're really fun to paint with. But I think you're going to be fine here. They also make cat tongue. This is a synthetic one, and you can also get a lot of paint, but then comes to a nice sharp point. We're going to be getting into an acrylic. I think that's what's going to want to be one of the shortcomings of being remote is it's going to be a little difficult to give you acrylic and oils because they dry, and then I have to give you whole paint tubes, so that's why we're going to probably be using watercolor. But another type of brush here is we talked about synthetic and we talked about sable. Well, this is not really sable, but it's also not synthetic. So sable is usually soft, small animal hair. Well, this is much stiffer. It's usually white. They make house painters paint brushes out of this, but typically this is much more of an oil or acrylic brush where you have a thicker paint. And this is made out of hog hair, Chinese hog hair. So really long white hair, and they make them in all different sizes as well. So this is a flat because it comes out here rectangular. They make, they make filberts. Filberts, this is not a hog hair, but the filbert kind of curls in on the sides. And they make basically every shape that they make sables in, but in hog hair. One of the other ones that I haven't talked about is a fan brush. This is hog hair fan brush, but they also make sable, and they also make synthetic hog hair. But you need a little stiffer kind of brush for acrylics and oils. So you probably don't want to go out and buy anything right now because you don't know what they're all going to do for you. But I think that as we go through the whole course, that's my whole objective is to get you introduced to all these different things so that you can go out and buy things you want. If you like watercolor, if you like oil, or you like acrylic, then you'll know what kind of things to pursue. So hopefully that's a kind of a little nutshell of different kind of brushes. Again, one more review. We have a mop, good for watercolor washes, and that's big areas. The round, the synthetic round, number 12. It's good for washes, not as big areas, but still we'll do that. But it'll also get some really fine work. And then this rigger, which is really for fine work and really straight lines. So I hope you enjoy this class. As a remote student, you're going to have to be emailing me if you have other questions. I'd love to see your work in progress where you're not having to just surprise me with the work. I don't want to see it at the very end without seeing it in the middle. So that's where we can correct things and work on things, and I can teach you some things, and I'll maybe make individual videos for you. But the more you're involved with me, the more I'll be involved with you. So you're going to have to come in to class from time to time to get your materials. But I think for the most part, you're going to submit your work with a picture from your phone, and then you're going to submit it on Google Drive. So I hope you enjoy this class, and look forward to working with you.